that I've experienced, that I've done, and it might not work for you. Every strategy that I list, that I tell you about, it may not work, but it helps to try it.
Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I have another amazing guest here tonight. I have my good friend, Mr. LaMond Hall. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you for having me.
Great. Hey, LaMond, tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
LaMond Hall. I am a Prairie University graduate, 3-time graduate, actually. I have a master's, 2 masters and a bachelor's from Prairie. My bachelor's is in social work. I have a master's in counseling, a master's in special ed. I'm also a diagnostician. I'm currently a behavior teacher in a local school district. Enjoy working with kids with disabilities, especially those who have disabilities, dealing with behaviors and not understanding those behaviors. I also enjoy helping adults, teachers specifically, learn about those disabilities and also help them deal with them. I also have a mirage of other things I like to do that I'm interested in. I guess we'll probably get into some of those a little bit later. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with having a myriad of things that we all like to enjoy. And hey, man, so I've been knowing you for a long time. I remember you as a freshman at Prairie View. You came in. Let's talk about, why did you decide to go to Prairie View A&M University? I see you representing with your sweatshirt.
So Coach Jeffrey, little backstory, he decided to take a position down in my hometown, basically. I wanted to be educated with people that look like me. I've been educated. I understood it. I get it. And I enjoyed it, actually. But college, I wanted to see something different. I wanted to experience something different. So I chose Prairie University, or HBCU specifically. Prairie was actually my last choice. I did not want to go because everyone from my family attended. So I wanted to be a little different. I had scholarships from other universities, but I chose Prairie View, and best choice ever. So that's why I chose Prairie View.
Yes. And, I'm proud to be a Prairie View graduate myself, man. I think it shaped me, especially to where I am today, to where I am able to be in diverse communities that necessarily don't look like me and still remain educated. So I think this is a testament to the university.
Definitely.
And it's 150 years that it's been there. So we both learned at Prairie View. We both are educators. And so you specialize in a form of education that is actually needed. And so during the pandemic, what are some of the differences that you saw affecting students with disabilities?
So students with disabilities, they really need structure. They really need consistency. And without being in the classroom, that part of education really lacked. It was non-existent in most of my situations. It was non-existent because my students have a hard time dealing with, number one, change. And number two, unstructured environments. And if you're at home all day, that's a pretty much unstructured environment. They can do what they want to do. They really didn't do very well. Some of them who are kind of a little self-motivated, and the ones who have that parental support at home, that strong parental support, they did okay. But for the most part, they really struggled with the whole being at home during the pandemic and trying to learn. It takes a special learner, even with the ones who don't have a disability. Sometimes those kids aren't really motivated by being at home sitting in front of a computer. So you take those kids and then multiply times, like sometimes 10, with students with disabilities, and they don't understand off top. And also they just don't want to be there. So they're going to do everything in their power not to get that work done and not to be on task. It's difficult enough being a virtual student in school, like using computers and stuff like that, to keep a student on task. Now, when you're at home and you can just do what you want to do, that is a super difficult job. And my kids, the ones I work with, really suffered and really struggled. But that's my take on it. It's just difficult because of the structured environment, the lack of structure, I should say, and the motivation and the parental support at home. So,
Yeah, and those are a bunch of different factors, and then especially if you throw poverty in there as well,
Exactly.
that also is another key. You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yes, sir. Actually, so the district I was previously at, they actually gave out devices to help the students have internet service,
Hmm.
right? So a lot of districts didn't have that option. So some of the students, they just had to see how to get it how they, how they could.
Hmm.
But and even with that, they still didn't get on. They still didn't do it. But when you have someone who didn't eat the night before, or who didn't eat breakfast, or who's concerned about the lights being on and things like that, classwork is the last thing that's on their mind. And the parents aren't motivated for that either. So you really lack in that area. So they it's basically what is at the moment their best source, what's going to get them by through the day. So, and if opening this Chromebook up, or the schoolwork is going to not going to get it for them usually, so they choose.
Yeah, and and being a behavior teacher, and now you coming back to school, and we're asking them to become regimented. What is that like, getting them reacclimated into the school?
So I can't really speak on it per se, but because I'm dealing with a different group of kids, so I don't know their backstory, right?
Yeah.
But I can just imagine the kids who last year, and they didn't want to be there for number one, and they
Mhm.
sat out, and all these other issues and things that came in, that it's a difficult task. It's difficult enough getting them motivated to do daily work, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's even more difficult to get them to do daily work when they haven't done daily work for a year and a half, basically. So, but they're also, now this is still the beginning of school, so it's, it's that honeymoon phase. Everybody's
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
They're okay. The work is pretty easy. It's nothing too strenuous for them right now, but I'm just anxious to see, once we start getting into meat of the work, the assignments, how they're going to respond and react. But I haven't had too much difficulty now. Of course, my classroom is structured a lot different from many of your listeners probably,
Mhm.
but they really don't have choices. You know, in my room, like, either do this or do this. It's two choices, and the latter is not what you really want. So most of the time, they'll go ahead and fold to what I'm asking them to do. But getting them back acclimated to their regular classroom regimen is a difficult task. But like I said, right now they're okay with it, because it's something new to them. They want to be there at this point, because they were so tired of being at home. They
Mhm.
have other kids and other people to be around. So actually, it's going okay. I can say it's going okay right now. But like I said, we're still in that little honeymoon phase, so it could
Yeah.
change at any moment, especially with the kids that I deal with.
And your kids, you have that population of students who they have like major structures. Your school would have you to be, just so my listeners to know what type of teacher you are, that when a student is acting up in the classroom, but it's not a discipline issue, but they would just refuse to do their work because they have a disability of, so you would come and put them in a small group setting, and your classroom is that small group setting where behaviors are then not necessarily glazed over, but you work with students who have abilities that, the regular students probably may not have.
True, true. So in essence, my classroom is set up. It's generally a small group, and my students work on a level system, right? So they'll start off with me self-contained, like, all day, and as they progress through the level system, they will earn their out classes, right? They'll earn. We're not going to see you in the PE first. We're not going to see you there. We're not going to see you in anything fun. We're going to send you to something with some substance. Math, English language arts are usually my first two, but they will go there first. And as they're still in my class and still in the general ed class, they're working their way up. They're still earning points. They're still doing what they're supposed to do. And at that point, they just exit out of the program. Hopefully, that's the goal, that's the hope, is for them to exit out of the program. But yeah, we work on a level system, in so many levels, so many days in my class. They will get a level, they'll level up, and they'll get a class. So
Mhm.
many days of going, like, it's more of a percentage type thing. So they have to be good and do what they're supposed to do for, like, let's say 80% of the day, right? And they'll get that day, so they'll earn that day. It varies like that, man. So it's just based on the student. Actually, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, if you don't want to do the work, that's fine. We're not gonna argue with you. We're not gonna debate and go back and forth. You just don't get that day. And eventually, when you see the other students start going to their out classes and start getting more and more levels, then the other student will look within themselves, usually be like, man, okay, well, I need to go ahead and buckle down and start earning these classes. And the whole time, the teacher, myself, is usually saying, hey, man, I need you to get to work because I don't want you to be in this class with me. I need you to be out there learning from the other general ed teachers and being around your other students. I know you want, and we're going to help you. We're going to give you the tools that you need to be successful in this classroom. Social skills is really number one because they don't often have the ability right now to deal with how their emotions are taking over, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what my class is really structured and geared towards. Now, when they get into the general ed classroom, if they're refusing to do assignments, to me, that's a general ed teacher issue. He or she should be able to handle a kid not wanting to do assignments. Now, when the kids start throwing chairs, okay, you can. That's when we step in and okay, well, it's time to come on back to the room. But your classroom management should be set up in a way to where you can handle a kid saying, man, I'm not doing the work today. Okay, well, it's the scale that you go through. I'm sure, Coach Jeffrey, you can speak to that. So as the assistant principal, as a coach, you know when a kid is refusing to do the work, it's not always the behavior kid. It's not always a kid with a disability. It's a general ed kid out there that don't want to do the work sometimes. Don't call the behavior teacher when a behavior student is exhibiting the same behavior as a general ed student. We try drilling the head of our teachers now because you handle that kid the same way you handle the other ones. Now, like I said, when they start getting physical and, throwing chairs and stuff like that, then that's when we really step in and handle the situation.
Man, you said a mouthful right there, sir. I know that there are a bunch of people who might disagree with you about what you just said, but I totally agree with what you just said. The general ed teacher should be able to encourage every student to follow the classroom rules.
They should be able to. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Should be able to. And I'm not gonna put you on the spot. And in some places I have worked, I have seen how some blame the behaviors on the student who was a special ed student, but you got general ed students who are doing the same thing. So I really appreciate you pointing that. That was very deep.
I've been in education for approaching 20 years, man. So I've seen everything imaginable. I've seen general ed teachers who one of the special needs or behavior kids might do or say something, and they automatically call them the behavior. General ed kid do or say something, and they have a guideline, they have something to follow. Well, ma'am, sir, you follow his behavior intervention plan. You yes. Follow his BIP. Whatever is set for that student, that's what you go by. That's the guideline. That's the rule. Point.
Should have enough pedagogy to encourage students to do work that they need to do.
Should. It's a key word, sir.
I get that. I've seen it on both sides. I know when I was a brand new teacher, I struggled in that area as well. I would lecture students and do all things that, horrible teachers do. And I end up lecturing all the students for one student. I did a lot of stupid stuff as I was learning to be an educator.
So thank you for bringing the new teacher thing up. Let's lead into this next point. I am writing a book. I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah. So my book is really for new educators and some old educators who might have some refreshers or something that they need refreshing on, basically the top 10 ways to combat negative behaviors in your classroom. I don't know if you guys out there remember David Letterman, but that's how it's set up. Is it descending 10 through 9? Going descending order. We're going to start with 10 and go all the way to 9. It's some things you guys should already
excuse me, you going to start with 10 and go to 9, or you going to start with 10 and go to 1?
Descending is still 10 to 9, Will, in case you didn't know.
It is, but I was listening to you, so I
was correcting me. Descending order from 10 to 1. I'm picking. It's a lot of strategies and things you guys can use, but I'm picking my top 10 that worked for me, that I've experienced, that I've done, and it might not work for you. Every strategy that I list, that I tell you about, it may not work, but it helps to try it. If you're dealing with a student in your classroom, and you hitting your head against this brick wall, and it's testing time, and he's interrupting or she's interrupting your instruction, why not try something that you haven't tried before to hopefully get that student to calm them down while you can teach your lessons? So they're super easy, super basic. It's gonna be a real easy read for the first year teachers, second year teachers, because like you were saying, I've experienced, man, when my first year teaching, you're a teacher. Period. Here's your classroom. This is what you do. Go ahead. No one told me about classroom management. No one told me about how to deal with these kids when they start doing crazy stuff in your class. You just learn that as you go on, and sometimes we handle it the wrong way. And I'm just trying to help somebody not give them a tool to use, basically, to not handle it the wrong way. Because like I said, I've talked to several people and I've been in several classrooms to where like I'm looking around like, dang, these new teachers, they don't have any guidelines as to how you manage your classroom. And it's all about management. Your classroom should run without you even being there usually. So that's what my book is about. The top 10 ways to combat negative student behaviors. And if you can kind of manage that, manage the behaviors, your lessons, and everything else that you're trying to get across, they'll go seam. But it's usually the behaviors that people have a problem dealing with. So that's what. Thank you for bringing it up, sir, about the first year teacher. So
Hey, no problem at all, because I definitely want that book. But at what point in your career did you realize that you finally understood that it was you managing behaviors and not the behaviors of the kids?
recently, actually, I think I went to. I forgot what training it was, but a light bulb went off. I was like, okay, well, this is what it is. And from that point on, I was like, even doing more research with the book and things like that, just listening and talking to people, you still learn things every day. You still learn what people go through. But from my point, it was recently. I was thrown into a situation when I first started teaching, man. Generic special education. They've probably done away with it at this point, but generic special ed was like a safety net. It was like that crack that people often talk about between life skills and resource. So you catch all those kids right there who are not low enough for life, not high enough for life skills, but not low enough for resource. So you catch those kids, and I had some in there. Like I would be okay with sending some of my kids to the grocery store and having them bring me back my correct change. But to sit down and take a test, I knew they would fail every single time. Right. So it's just some of those things like that. The kids I had in my classroom, it was just like a mirage of kids that they just couldn't function in a regular classroom. So that was that piece that was missing for them, and they were successful with it. I wish they would bring something like that back, because every kid is not gonna be able to sit in the classroom, sit and get. Every kid is not that kid, especially the ones with disabilities. They have a different path that they're gonna take, and I think we should like really look at the path that these kids might be taking in the future, because sit and get is not for everybody. So that's just my personal opinion. We need to have a little disclaimer down here, sir. Like the opinions and views.
Oh, sir, it's on. When you listen to the podcast, it will state that the very first thing you hear is that. Okay, trust me. Yeah, these are your own opinions, and they do not reflect the views of your employer.
They sure do not.
And nobody needs to know where you're employed, sir. You're an educator with experiences, and that's anybody can talk about their experiences.
Very true. Very true. So yeah, that's just it, man. Like when you're in education for so long, you see so much. And like my thing was, the new teachers coming in, they don't have that structure yet. Yeah. Not when I was growing up. Like, I understand the kids are different. I understand that it's a totally different environment that you're dealing with, but that doesn't mean your classroom cannot be structured like Miss Barrett, my first grade teacher. Like that doesn't mean it can't be structured like Miss Barnett, my sixth grade teacher. That don't mean like it can't be structured like Miss Johnson. So all these people, you knew when you walked in that classroom, it was their classroom, right? Yeah. Admin didn't have to come down and talk to the class about, getting in trouble or doing. We never seen administration. I never knew who the principal was until assembly or something. Yeah. But I know some of these schools that I've been at and I've been in, admins in the classroom, like they getting a teacher paycheck. And I'm like, why? And I start to look at why. The reason is because they don't know how to structure their classroom. They're new teachers. And if they're new teachers, then no one has really showed and taught them. You don't learn that in college. You don't learn that in your educational courses. That comes with experience and talking to people, talking to the right people, by the way, and gaining that classroom knowledge. So I have a little bit under my belt, and I'm willing to share it with people, and that's the thing about it. So if I that's my thing. I want to share it because some of your kids are gonna go to somebody else, and they're gonna go to somebody else acting just like they did with you, and that's not right. So just to help somebody along.
You know, you said a mouthful and what you don't necessarily get in college, but it also kind of determines which college you go to. And we started off talking about going to Prairie View. You said that you wanted to, your K-12 education was with a certain group of people, and you went to Prairie View to get that experience to be around another group. There are some people who are educators who never, ever experience diversity until they become a. Will you be writing
Sad.
about that?
Sad. That's very sad. But it's where we live. It's the world in which we live, and you can't really teach diversity, man. Like you have to be engulfed in. You have to be submerged in diversity, and you have to be willing to understand it. Now, if you go in with a closed mind and you have your own opinion, your own thoughts, and you've never talked to somebody of a different race before, then you're not going to understand anyway. So, number one, why are you a teacher? And then number two, like you should find the exit out the profession immediately because it's just not for you. Everybody has to learn. It doesn't matter who you are. So you should be willing to educate all kids in whatever environment that you are in. So, like I said, I've grown up in different environments and I've been educated in different environments, and it makes a difference, regardless if you know it or not. It makes a huge difference if you understand what these kids. And if you don't understand, my suggestion to you, number one, is find somebody who you are okay with and talk to them in an open conversation and help so they can help you understand. But you have to be willing to have those conversations with people. And a lot of times we're too standoffish. But if you really want to gel and build that relationship with your students, if you don't want this kid acting up in class, you have to be willing to talk. I forgot what number it is in my book, what chapter, but it's collaborate.
Yeah.
It's collaborate with your coworkers, with your team, or whoever it may be to get on the same page and understand what's going on. Because if I've never coached basketball before, it might make some sense to get with somebody who's coached basketball before. I mean, that, it's just who's coached before, who knows the game a little bit. So it might make some sense. If I've never taught a Hispanic kid before, like how's this culture? Like how are they reared? Like what's the pace like? So it might make some sense to like just get a little bit. You don't have to like be, involved and go to all the quinceañeras or whatever, but just get a little bit of background knowledge on who you're dealing with. A lot of times people don't want to do that, but you should. As a professional, and if you really and true and serious about your craft, you should want to get a little background knowledge about who you do.
I agree. And, I want to state we went to a historically Black university, and there are people who grew up in predominantly African-American neighborhoods that go to a historically Black university, but then they're dumped into a situation to where they are in a predominantly Caucasian school. It works the same way.
It
What you're
works
saying.
both ways.
It works both ways. So I just definitely want to point that out. No matter what your culture is, children will not learn from you unless they like you.
Exactly. That's that's very true. Very true. They have to like you, and you can build a bond over anything, man. Like for real. Like it's something so small and insignificant usually that kids will attach themselves and build a bond with you over, and they'll work for you. You just have to find it. You gotta be willing to find out what it is. And I know some teachers out there, 7 classes and 30 kids in each class. I can't build a bond with each student. Well, you can't, but you can try. You start with the pro tip, start with the most difficult student in the class, build a bond with that person, and I guarantee you your whole day will be a little bit better. All your classes will change. If you get the most difficult, because most of the time he or she is a leader. And once you get that leader on your side, then everything else is gonna go. It's gonna go easier and smoother. So I'm giving y'all that one for free. Basically.
Okay, well, since we throwing out pro tips, I'll give you one that works real well. Have students create a class playlist and let students select their songs and then play those songs in class, as long as they're not vulgar.
Edited.
Not NBA young boy, and what's the other one?
I don't listen to people. I'm the temptation, sir.
Yeah, let the kids make their playlist and then play it softly in the background when they're doing independent work, and they'll that's a good way to build culture
That's a
and
great way to build culture. That's a
build
great way.
respect for the educator.
Definitely, because
Now,
you're listening to them.
yes, you listen to them. Now, speaking of being listened to, I'm looking in the background there, sir. Let's talk about that building that you're in right there. Let's share the other part of what you do.
So the other part is my wife and I, we don't want to be teachers for like all of our lives. I'm sure none of y'all out there either. So we don't. At some point, you have to retire. At some point, I understand we all love the kids. I understand this is our passion, but at some point, they're gonna put you out to school. Like you can't be there with the kids all day. We got together, my wife and I, and we thought about what we can do to like start on our retirement.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things that we came up with, and it's kind of working out. We own a wine lounge, local city down here,
Mhm.
and it's going pretty good. We've been here for 2 years. It'll be
Mhm.
3 years in March, actually.
Mhm.
Been here for 3 years, and it's our our little retirement. It's small in stature, but we still have it's like a Cheers vibe. Coach Jeffrey has been here a couple of times, and he can tell you that when people come in, it's like home.
Yeah.
We greet everyone. We kind of know what people like already, so we create that environment that we like and we cater to and that we enjoy. So that's what it is. That's why we create it. That's why we have it. Everything in here that we've done ourselves for the most part, the vibes we created ourselves from going to different places, experiencing those places and be like, okay, we like that. Okay, well, we like that. We like the walls in here. So we brought all that back together here and we created Cork Wine Lounge is the name of it. And like I said, we've been here be 3 years in March. This is our retirement. This is one of our retirements, basically.
Mhm.
So, like I said, we both enjoy teaching, but we understand. I've been in for longer than she has, and I understood that you know what, it's not going to be forever. So,
Definitely the plan B.
right, and C and D.
And
So,
you right. You right.
so
Especially when you're going from 10 to 9. You can't forget that.
definitely. We started this little business, man, and it's been going pretty good. We mostly educators come and hang out with us. We complain about administration, we complain about kids, we complain about other teachers or whatever, but it's like Vegas, whatever goes on and talked about here, it pretty much stays here. We lock the doors on admin usually. They kind of sneak in, but
Uh,
we have an admin night sometimes and we'll let them in. They get their frustration out about the teachers or whatever, showing up late and all that. But most of the time it's just a teacher environment. We come in and hang out and just enjoy ourselves. So that's what it is.
yes, I actually enjoy that little spot. That's a really neat little place, man, and I'm looking forward to patronizing it again. And lastly, before you go, I just want to mention that me and you will be collaborating in the future on some endeavors. You want to talk about that?
I'll start and you just interject. How about that?
Yeah, yeah.
We got together and we thought about a way to collaborate. And since you're down here in the country now,
Yeah.
so we're gonna start highlighting some different educators in the area, and within that we're gonna ask the educators, hey, what's on your playlist? What do you listen to in the morning when you're going to work? What do you listen throughout the day? Because I have my station up throughout the day playing in the room. My kids enjoy it. It keeps them like entertained. It keeps them engaged, and that's just for my class. So we talk about music a lot, and that's one of the things that gets people engaged. It gets them in it builds what's the word I'm looking for?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie with your students and the class. So that's the thing we're trying to build also. So we're going to interview and talk to different educators in the area. We're going to highlight them and basically talk about what they like about education, and also get their playlists together. And one of the things we're going to do with that is we're going to have a education night, and we're going to highlight that specific person. They're going to invite their friends and family here to Cork, and we're going to play their playlist, and also we're going to play their interview with Coach Jeffrey. So
Yeah.
we're going to be doing that in the near future.
And we're really looking forward to that because we have a exclusive deal with Pandora, and it will be not only broadcast in court, but it will be played on Pandora exclusively to those people who have the Pandora. So you can be there with us virtually, no matter where you are in the country. And we're looking forward to getting this together. And you probably can't be in court with us the first couple times that we do it if you're an educator and you want to be on that little thing, but it's free, and we're just looking forward to collaborating. I'm very proud of this young man, been from my university and doing great things, and I'm just I'm just happy that I can collaborate with such an amazing educator.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity. Like, we jumped on it as soon as we kind of thought about it and brainstormed. Like, yeah, this is it. Let's go with it. So I appreciate the opportunity to assist and to be a part of it.
Gotcha. So where can our listeners find you at?
I recently started Facebook, professional Facebook, LaMond and Troy. I think I posted it's on here somewhere. LaMond and Troy, MAMED. I had to put out my little degrees up there. You know how that goes.
Yes.
I'm a little educated, sir. So
yeah, you got to show it.
Yeah, I'm still paying for them, but I still almost.
I thought they was gonna wipe them out, but they.
I hope so. But anyway, okay. I got that going, so you can always look for me on there. I just recently finished the top 10 countdown. I'm going to start doing some more things on there on Facebook as well, but that's pretty much it, man. I'm all over the place. So
okay. So what we'll do is we will link your endeavors in our Flipboard EDU magazine, and we will also have you on the educators blogs for those people who are be looking for Mr. LaMond and Troy Hall. So LaMond, thank you for coming on the show, man. It was great talking to you, and I'm looking forward to our teacher stories that will be on Pandora.
Teacher Tales.
Teacher Tales. I like that too. We got to get a name. Teacher Tales. I don't know.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks.
Appreciate you, sir. I'll take it easy.